Good evening and welcome to another edition of Real Talk with Michelle. This evening, you are in for a blessing. We've been doing these shows over and over, and we have heard people's testimony and we've heard different journeys. This evening, my guest, Sharon and Otis Parris, is going to bless your soul. So let me dive in and let me introduce you. When asked to lead prison ministries for West Broad Street Church in Savannah, Georgia, Sharon Parris knew without hesitation that God was calling her to this ministry. Her family had seen both sides of the prison ministry's fence. Having battled addiction and incarceration, Sharon shares her story to help others facing the same battle. She knew this ministry would allow her and her family to be transparent about their journey. The journey is one of trials, tribulations, transparency, and triumph. Romans 8:28 teaches us that all things work together for good to them that love God and to them who are called according to his purpose. Sharon is a true testament of God's grace, God's mercy, and God's unfailing love. It is because of her own experience with her God that she is able to share her journey. Personally, I am blessed to have met them, and I am blessed with the friendship, which is why I can tell you that the vow Otis and Sharon took for better or worse is what they stand for. They have endured much trials and have triumphed much. Matthew 7:1 says, "Judge not, that ye may not be judged." It is my prayer that what you will hear this evening will transform souls, bless souls, uplift souls, encourage souls, and win souls. Welcome, and thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this platform.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to dive in, but I must say that every time I do this show, I repeat the same thing. I say, you know, it has allowed me to meet different people. It has allowed me the opportunity to hear different journeys and different testimony. But I'm excited about your testimony and your journey that you're about to share. I know that you're going to be reliving it. But I also know, and I also feel in my heart, that you're going to bless souls or a soul by sharing. I admire the transparency and the honesty, and I'm ready to dive in. Are you?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's do it. Let's start with you, Sharon. Tell me a little bit about you. Tell me about your childhood. Tell me about the start of this journey. Tell me a little bit about you and how you grew up.
Many years ago, a crime was committed. I can just imagine the emotional part of the situation, being your innocence being snatched.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, at 13 years old.
What happened at 13?
My mom, she was raped.
Wow.
At 13.
Wow. Wow.
And
you were the product of that rape.
I was the product of that rape.
Wow.
So my grandmother raised me.
Mm-hmm.
My mom stayed here in Savannah, and we moved into the country with my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom would come and visit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at that time she had got married
Mm-hmm.
and had my brother, and she would come and visit and bring toys and gifts, you know, toys, gifts, and things. But there wasn't that emotional connection. you know. And so at a young age, I started acting out.
Because you were missing something. You were missing that love.
I was started acting out. So I guess around 9 or 10, my grandmother said that she felt comfortable with me going back to live with my mom and her new husband. So I went back and we started going to church. It was very strict home. And I would, sneak and do things. So the strictness was new from where you had come from, living with your grandmother, to this household. Yeah. Okay. And so it wasn't Adventist then, but we were still going to church, like I said, and it was very strict. Once we became an Adventist, I went to private school, and they felt comfortable with me going over to other kids' house, but we would sneak out and do things. And I remember going to a club and having my first alcohol beverage. And I loved the way it made me feel. That liquid courage. Everything that I had experienced or feeling or was feeling,
Excuse me.
It was
it helped to numb everything.
It did. It helped to numb everything. Like I said, I started acting out. Went to high school. Still was drinking. There was no major effect or any. You were functioning. I was functioning. You were drinking, but you were functioning. I was functioning. I met Otis. I met you at. When I was at Rayma?
Yes, but if you allow me to, there was a part of her story that we were reliving earlier today, and the pain is still real. As we were reliving, and I was trying to process, and we were trying to process at the age of 13, innocent little child playing, and just having a good time, and here come along a grown person and rob her of her innocence. Violated her. And this is a child. And of course you heard what Sharon just mentioned, my wife. She's a product of a crime. And out of this crime came Sharon, but not knowing. And you've asked a 13-year-old to raise a baby. And so she didn't know because her mother didn't know. And so all the emotional scars and things were growing inside of her. And it was hidden because she was not exposed to certain things. And as she grew, these things came out and manifest themselves in different forms and fashion. So, she's come a long way, dealing with the emotional rejection of, why is it that I'm living over here, but I can't live with my mother, and all of these things are going on. And so we had to learn and grow together to discover why we are feeling this way, why we're acting out this way. And it's a journey. It's a journey. It's a journey. So many of us are born out of traumas. We have so many, whether it's underlining or just family stuff that we're born into, and some of us without even knowledge, and it affects us. It affects our adulthood. It affects our childhood growing up. But tell me about, so you started drinking and even into adulthood, and you were numbing all the feelings and all the emotions, and then you met Otis. So walk us through that journey in terms of dating. Were you met him and you started dating? Were you still drinking? What was happening at that time? Okay, when we started dating, no, I wasn't drinking. But I still had issues going on. And today, you say how you can look back and see some of it. But yeah, I still had some issues.
And those issues were still the emotional issues you were dealing with, and all the stuff from childhood,
the things
to adulthood,
the things that we normally do not see, until they reveal themselves, you know, in a physical way, something we can visibly see. And so, why I'm looking at this young lady, you know, and in my eyes and everything, she's perfect, you know,
but she's wounded,
she's scarred, and but at the same time I didn't see this because I just liked what I saw, and you know, I fell in love with what I saw and what have you, and even in talking with her and getting to know her, her scars were hidden, and they were hidden from me. And as we grew and what have you, I knew that I love her. And then as the scars began to reveal themselves.
And I don't mean to cut you, but you said they were hidden, and then they started to reveal themselves. Was that intentional on your part? Is that something that you weren't being open about with him, or is it that it just never came up? All the emotional stuff you were going through, all the hurt, all the pain. When you say hidden, just kind of clarify that. Was that intentional on your part, or it just didn't reveal itself?
It just didn't reveal itself.
Okay.
It just didn't reveal itself.
Okay.
So really, when a lot of things start coming to light is when we moved to Alabama, and Otis was going to college there, and I started stealing.
Okay.
I started stealing.
Okay.
Remember I told you when I was young, my mother used to bring me
gifts
and toys. And so it was always things, material things. And even when I went back to live with her, she would always give me money to go shopping and do all those things. And so when we got married and we moved to Huntsville, and I would ask for things, you know, a dress or whatever, and when he would say no, I was shocked, you know, because I was so used to having things. And so I started, like I said, I started stealing. I started doing things. And so to this day, I think I feel a lot of guilt because that was the reason why we moved back to Savannah.
Okay.
And Otis didn't finish, and that kind of beats me up.
So in terms of the stealing, did you at that time realize that something was happening in your life in Alabama? Did you realize at that time?
Matter of fact, I didn't know. And the trauma for me was that when I found out, it's like it blew up in my face. And it was something I never experienced. And to see my wife being processed, you know, and it was trauma. It was an emotional experience I've never encountered in my life. You know, my wife is actually being snatched from me, and I'm not knowing why. But the sad part along with that is once I began to find out what really was going on, the institution, the church that I love, I was new in the faith.
And this is in Alabama?
Yeah, this is in Alabama. I'm new in the faith. And when I really found out what was going on, I went to try to rectify, try to mend fences, try to, you know, do my part as a Christian. And I was rejected. I was traumatized because I wanted to share what my side of the story was. And I was told that the people who were involved and were injured didn't want to have anything to do with me. They didn't want to hear what I had to say. And it traumatized me, you know, trying to find my way in theology, in the church and what have you. And so it was really a trying experience for me. And at the same time, I'm trying to process my wife and
doing something. So you're in Alabama. you're in school and you're in church, and you're there as his supportive spouse, and then you start stealing and you get in trouble there. And at that point, did an arrest take place? Did something take place to change your paradigm and change the trajectory of your life?
Yes,
it did.
Arrest was made.
Okay, so once you went through that situation, then you moved to Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay, so walk us through that. You came back home, and what happened?
We came back home, and I don't know whether we stayed with your parents for a while before we found a place of our own. Oh, we had our daughter. Okay. Kia.
Okay.
We had her out of wedlock.
Okay. Okay.
I need to go back.
But she was already. We had her when we were at Oakwood.
Right.
Okay. So we had our daughter. Okay. But when we came back to Savannah, okay, we were fortunate enough to, when we came back, Sharon was released and went through that whole process and what have you. So we came back to Savannah and we tried to, regroup, start our life back over again,
fresh
and
start.
kind of recalibrate, what have you.
Absolutely.
And eventually try to go back, which we ultimately did. But when we went back home, the behavior now I'm beginning to see the things that I didn't see before, and I'm trying to process, my wife and her scars, and also I'm trying to process my dreams and desire in terms of ministry and what have you. So I got these two things kind of, about what do I do and how do I do it, I'm learning on the fly. And then, it was my understanding of religion, which was a misconception and theology that I put above my wife. And the thing that the person and that she needed the most was not available. Right. I gave her more religion than I gave that Christian walk in terms of, hey baby, I'm with you, we going through. It was more, you shouldn't do this, and you shouldn't do that. God. And I was helped creating some of the trauma that she went through.
Right. Because you weren't tapping into her emotionally. Yes. You were more pushing the spirituality on her, and that at that time,
more the religion than the spiritual.
Than the spiritual. Okay.
So, like I said, we moved back, got our place. I started working in the medical field, and I had surgery. I needed surgery, and I found myself getting addicted to the pain pills. And so when I couldn't get the pain pills, because I worked in the medical field, I had access to prescription pads, and so I would just write myself some prescriptions. Sometimes, I would call myself some in, but this particular time when I wrote a prescription, I got caught, and I got arrested. And while I was out on bond for doing this, I committed another crime. Now looking back, the insanity. But I really didn't know what was wrong with me.
That's okay.
I didn't. The behavior, I didn't know what was wrong with me. And like Otis said, all he was doing was church. And I was quote unquote trying to be that wife that he wanted me, the first elder's wife, and the kids was like, you wanted us in church,
that family,
and we was just,
and what's amazing about that at that time, because what she was going through, I was going through my own. I'm trying to save face, and she's trying to find out what's going on with her. So it's like, we juggling these two things. She's in her world and I'm in my world, and I'm like, man, the things she's doing is tearing us apart, but the things I'm doing is tearing us apart. Because here you have two people who trying to find their way and actually don't know exactly what to do. All we knew was that we were hurting one another, because she dealt with the rejection. She didn't deal with rejection. She's not used to dealing with rejection. She grew up. It started from a childhood. And I explained to her, hey, we can't afford some of the things that you desire to have. And that was a trigger for her. And so it created a lot of pain in our marriage, to the point where we really didn't care for one another. Emotionally, it was like, man, you know, you really need to go. I can't take this, or what have you. But every time I would look for an excuse to leave, God would remind me, where you going?
Yeah.
You remember that commitment?
Yeah.
And I have to, I'm not going anywhere. You know, so, you know, we had our battles, and I try to be honest with myself. You know, I was angry with God.
Yeah.
You know,
that was one of my questions for you later on, but we can talk about it now. You were out on bond, because you shared with me you were out on bond, and while you were out, you committed another crime, and you went in front of the judge, and your family went in front of the judge to plead for you.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Right. Like I said, I was out on bond, did something else, and I remember, I gotta go back. I remember coming home from work, and Otis was in the garage working, and I guess he was like, "Why are you home so early?" And I said, I'm gonna be arrested." And he was like, "What?" And then my daughter, she was coming out the door, and she had my granddaughter. Noah was like 3 years old, and she was like, "I don't have a mother. I don't have a mother." She was hurt and angry.
Disappointed,
you know, like, God, not again, you know. So I remember Otis telling me, "Listen, give me my key to the house, give me my cell phone. I'm not dealing with this." So I had to get my brother to take me to turn myself in. And so even though Otis said he was done with me, I didn't know until later that he did go before the judge, him and Kia, pleading for me for mercy. But because I guess I was like a recidivist, you know, it was like, no, you got to do some. You got to do some time.
Because there was no change. It was the same cycle over and over, and so she wouldn't allow that. So then you got arrested again. And as you know, my previous conversation with you guys, you call it the merry-go-round, the in and out of prison, in and out of jail, in and out of prison, in and out of jail.
And
so you called it, and the rehab. So it was a merry-go-round cycle for you. While all this is going on, tell me what was, because it's affecting your kids, it's affecting your children. What was it like for you as the head of the household? What was the pressure like to uphold the family, to see them through? Because here you are, you're struggling with your wife's behavior, you're struggling to be a father to your children who are suffering emotionally from seeing their mom go through this stuff. And then for you personally, the struggles for you personally. So emotionally, financially, all the alleys that you can think of, what was it like for you?
Well, when all of these things were going on, I was really, for the most part, bankrupt. And all my emotions and everything. I mean, I was traumatized. I was to the point where I really was angry, because I was being taught through religion, you know, you do these things, God will bless you. You do these things, God will bless you. But I had the wrong understanding how God would bless me. But in my understanding at the time, I'm like, wait a minute, God, I'm doing this. I've dedicated my life to you. I'm in church, I'm doing these ministries, I'm doing all these things, and my life and my family is falling apart. And I've had these conversations with God to the point where, you know, my son, because I didn't know, he was traumatized. You know, he's the baby, he's traumatized. Kia trying to be strong, she's traumatized. Here it is, I'm trying to hold everybody together, and when I think I can see a little bit of light, she comes home and, hey, you know, I've done it again. I've done it again. And I'm like, you know, and I thought physically, you have to be crazy. What is wrong with you? You know, to the point where I actually asked God and had a conversation. Is there a way out of this marriage? Is there a way out? And God told me, no, there isn't. Because he reminded me when I got married, I said, you know, the old wedding vows, you know, for better or worse, And then the conversation went like this. If you leave your wife, how do you stand before God's people and talk to them about love, unconditional love? And once we had that conversation, it was to the point, well, regardless of what transpired to this family, we don't leave, you know. And she's asking me, hey, won't you divorce me? Won't you just you know, I'm troubled for this. I said, I can't. I said, now, if you want to leave, you can leave, but I'm not leaving. So we've had these conversations, and God, you know, has a sense of humor. And as we go on, I'll tell you about the sense of humor.
And it's funny that you mentioned the sense of humor, because through this all, as you're going through this, you were elected family ministry leader. So how can you be elected as a family ministry leader knowing that your family is falling apart? How can you minister, and how can you be the one to say, listen, you know, let's keep families together when mine's falling apart? So tell us a little bit about that.
When I was asked, I'm like, first I thought, I'd say, man, that's a setup. Okay, this is a setup. How dare you ask me to be family life leader when my family, myself, we dysfunctional, we are a mess. And so me understanding a little better now, Lord, whatever your will, because I pray that prayer, whatever your will, whatever your will. And I'm like, okay, let's see what this is all about. And so why I'm family life leader, my wife is going through rehab and concentration the whole bit. And I wanted to sleep my way through the whole experience, or work my way, because my days were long, my nights were short, because, you know, I wanted to wake up in the morning, it's over with. 18 months, it's over with. But that wasn't the case. So I had a supporting cast, a church family. They rallied around me. We didn't sit down and say, okay, Otis, we're going to do this. But they knew what was going on. They knew I was hurting. They knew my family was hurting. And so... And
God placed you in a different atmosphere as well.
God blessed me with a support group.
Right, compared to what you had before.
Yes. It was there all along. But because I didn't recognize it, now it manifests itself. And that was one of the most rewarding experiences that I had. And while we were going through this bitter ordeal, and so then God said, "No, I'm not finished with you yet. We just getting started here. You got some more that we're gonna deal with you along the way." But that was one of the pivotal moments when I realized, okay, God, you do have a sense of humor, but you know this hurt. You know, so we've gone through that, and as we move along, you know, we'll share some more with you as it relates to that.
So Sharon, you went in front of the judge, you got denied bond, and you were arrested again, and you went in. Is this the point where, so we went from you know, Alabama, then we went to stealing, but at some point it got worse. At some point you got into heavier stuff. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, when I was, I always could manage to get really good jobs in the medical field. So at this particular job, I saw this girl that was working up front, and I don't know why, it just something just said, just ask her. You know, because I saw some behavior that I recognized, you know, so I was like, let me just ask her something. And when she said, yeah, and so I started the heavier drugs.
And heavier drugs being?
Cocaine.
Okay.
I was doing things that I never thought.
Like what? What were you doing?
Just, like I say, the stealing to get...
So it got to another level. It just enhanced everything else that you were already doing.
Right. It just enhanced it. And it just really took me down. You know what I'm saying? It physically too, mentally, physically, it just took me down. But
please share the part of the story when you were there. Everything I would do to try to honor God, you would intentionally do things to try to hurt me / my God. It was like, you love the church more than you love me. And so she became bitter with my relationship with God. And it really, so she can tell you about it.
I think, you know, in the beginning, you know, it was the childhood numbing, but as I got older, it became more family, and with him, not spending time with me. And then I started doing things deliberately
to get his attention,
to hurt him, you know, going out, you know. I remember he was in the hospital. Boy. And you had bleeding ulcers. I get so much stress. And I deliberately came with a friend.
Yes, I remember that.
I came with a friend to the hospital, and we were going out.
Yeah. It's funny now, but it wasn't funny then. I was laying on the hospital bed, and I was waiting for my supporting cast, you know. And my supporting cast walked in there, and I had a friend with her. And I'm thinking, you know, she's coming in, you know, so fast as she walked in, she walked out. It was almost like, why did you come?
Yeah, because I was angry, because I said to myself, you know, the reason why you laying up in here is stressed because it's all this stuff going on at church. You got this going on, that going on. Me, you know what I'm saying? It's like, so like, so what? You know what I'm saying? That was my mind.
And that was your way of dealing with it too. At the time. That was your release. That was your release.
And it was like, you know, your way, his way, or the highway. Even with the kids, you know. And like, you know, we were talking earlier, you know, our son, Lindsay, he really, this really affected him.
So tell us a little bit about Lindsay, because you know, he saw you going through all of this, and now Lindsay's on the other side of the fence. Lindsay's incarcerated. So tell us a little bit about that, and tell me how do you encourage him now? How do you, from your personal experience, encourage Lindsay? I know it's tough for you because you're going through it now, but just see if you can share with me a little bit. I know it's tough. Right?
With Lindsay being incarcerated, he's sharing some of his pain. I've always told my kids that I was sorry because I was doing the best that I could. But Lindsay shared with me that when I was in rehab one particular time, nobody really shared what was going on. He just knew I was gone, you know? So he started, when I went to prison, he started acting out and doing things, and Otis got the brunt of it. But, you know, I just know that he was in so much pain.
Because his mom wasn't there. His mom wasn't there physically. His mom wasn't there emotionally.
Just imagine, you know, you, on one hand you have your wife, and on the other hand you have your son, and then you're not sure about your daughter, who was actually, in actuality, when you find out, was mainly putting on a big front, you know, was trying to tell herself that she was strong, that she's okay, that she's okay, but in actuality she was broken inside. So you got all of them, and then I'm broken too. And I remember when we went before the judge, if you don't remind me to go back there a little bit, when I went before the judge, and the judge told me something I didn't want to hear, but it was one of the best things that I needed to hear. And that was, you know, we're not going to let her, we're not going to release her, because we went into a change, and she told us to wait, she'll get back with us the next day. So I'm thinking, oh man, she going to consider this, whatever. So we went down and got the news that I thought was bad news, and I got in my car. My daughter, she went down the highway, went her way. I went out towards Pulaski, Fort Pulaski, and I took this long walk. And this long walk is, when you take this long walk, in order to get back, you have to take that same walk back. And I didn't know how important that walk was going to be in my life. And I took that walk, and I came to a dead end, and then I had to turn back around. And even though I was tired and exhausted, and I had to be reminded, Otis, you came this far, you got to go all the way back. And so I came back, and it really helped me a whole lot, and I was able to get my feet under me, and from there on, we was okay. We're gonna make this work. It's gonna work. It's gonna work. I don't know how God is gonna fix it. I don't know what's gonna happen along the way, but we're gonna make this work.
That was the same moment for you.
Yes,
that you needed throughout all of this. Yeah. That walk with God, that time with God. Yeah.
It helped. It helped a whole lot.
Yeah.
So I was sentenced to 18 months in prison.
And what was prison like for you? Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Oh my goodness, it was rough. I remember I was put in a room because I was thinking about committing suicide, and it was just too much. Just seeing everything, and it just was overwhelming. And so I just wanted to give up. And I remember one of the guards telling me, she was like, Parris, come on. One of the correctional guards was saying, Parris, come on, you can do this. You have your husband, your family come visit you every week. And Otis never missed a weekend.
Faithful.
He was faithful. He never missed a weekend. And I just wanted to give up. And, and she said, you got to pull yourself together. So I said, God, please help me. Please help me. So I got involved in choir, prison choir. And so that pulled me through. That pulled me through. And I met this chaplain. Her name was Minister Breun. And she helped me pull through.
So in singing your way through it, encouraged you, and just also having that family support, because he was faithful in his visits. As angry as he may have been, as disappointed as he may have been, he endured and kept coming. Talk about for better or worse. Talk about what God has put together.
I remember the first time I saw you when we had visitation. The first time she came out, had on her brown, I guess fatigues, whatever you want to call them. She had on boots. I'm like, how my girl got on boots? she came out there with her boots on, and they had a little concession stands. They little things, they charge your arm and a leg, by the way. Okay, so I had to make sure, come there, man. I had a pocket full of quarters and what have you. And I remember, because she told me, she said, this is what you need to bring, and this is what you need to have. She said, bring enough for me, and so we'll sit down. And so I remember when I came, the first time I came, and I was able to touch her. It had been a long time since I touched my wife, and I grabbed her by the hand. And we were able to enjoy snacks together, It was, I'm like, I never thought that this would be a dinner date in prison. We eating, little chips and things, out of that. But, I was able to, every time they would allow me to visit her, which was, I think, every week, I was there, waiting for my opportunity to go in, to see her.
And she shared with me, you guys shared with me that, I think it was his birthday. And he had a birthday party. Right. Tell us about that. And then and tell me about that. Tell me about that visit, because it was special. And then tell us how that made you feel. How encouraged were you after that?
His sister gave him a 50th birthday party. And I think it was on a Saturday night. And I wasn't expecting him to come visit. I ain't had no clothes ironed or anything. And I remember Sunday morning, I heard somebody say, Parris, visitation. I'm like, ooh, visitation. It was him. It was him. Yeah, it was him.
Yeah, his birthday weekend, his time, his special event.
Yeah.
And
but you wrote a letter?
I wrote a letter. Yeah. I wrote a letter, and my aunt...
We still have it today.
We still have that letter today. Oh, my God. Yeah, but I still
and that letter was read for him at the party.
It was read to him at the party. And, him working at whatever company it is, but a lot of his co-workers probably was wondering, like, where is his wife? Where is his wife? And it was just, it was just
same thing with the the family life.
Family life,
you know,
right, because you shared with me that you were no-show for a lot of things.
And I'm standing up before all of these people with a marriage seminar at the hotel. All these people talking about marriage, and there's no wife. You know, the whole time. You know, but
and then another thing is too that a lot of the church people at church, I think some people knew because my behavior has started manifesting outwardly, but nobody really never came. It was the rumors
or whispers,
or like if I got arrested, they'll go through the website and send it to church members, and things like that.
Because when we first met, you shared with me too that sometimes you would be in church. And you would be high, or you would be numb, or you would go to the bathroom, and while you're in church,
right? Because it's like I was so angry at God, and I didn't want to be supportive. I didn't want to, so I would have to go and do what I need to do to be
show face.
Happy Sabbath,
show face.
Show
face.
Show face. And the trauma that I would experience from Sabbath to Sabbath or whenever I'm speaking, whatever, it was like a bittersweet experience for me. I'm in my element, I'm praising God and I'm worshiping and I'm thanking God for His many blessings and I'm where I need to be and where I believe God wanted me to be. But I knew once I finished, I had to deal with the real world. I had to deal with life on life's term, and life on life term was I had to deal with my wife because I knew it was coming. Because my wife could not stand the person that appeared to be my wife could not stand me to be happy and excited about my worship experience. So I'm like, I'm getting ready. We getting ready to, and we would go at it back and forth, and it was to the point where I actually considered making a choice between God and my wife.
Wow.
I've actually got to that point. I say, man, I can't keep doing it. I can't.
Even after the conversations and the walk that you had with God, you still came back to that point.
Yeah, I came. I relived it over and over. It's like, wait a minute, hey. I'm thinking, once the storm is over, I'm done with storms. Those are behind me. God said, no, we just getting started.
Wow.
Where we just getting started.
Meaning by just getting started is because you would think that after serving 18 months in prison, that I would come home and say, this is it.
Yeah, well, tell us more about that.
But it wasn't. I think like 3 months after, I think I was on parole for a couple of months afterwards. And I found myself back on drugs.
So being in prison for 18 months didn't change your mindset? It didn't motivate you to come out to do better?
Listen, this is what happened. I really wanted to do my heart. I wanted to come home and I told you I joined the choir. I would go every month to services that they would have and everything. My heart was like, I'm coming home and this is it. This is it. But something traumatic happened after living in a house for 17 years. This is where this is what happened. And we had to, we were evicted. We were evicted. 17 years of living somewhere, we were evicted and we had to move out like in a week. So I had to go, me and Kia and her daughter Noah, we had to go live with my parents, Lindsay and Otis.
No, I had to go and I went to my mother's and my son, he just went on his own rampage. It was like, because he was already struggling. He was already struggling and and it was like, and so I'm spending time, running the streets trying to find him and whatever. And then when I find him, I'm trying to do him like my daddy did me. my father, all he had to do is talk to me, but that wasn't registering, at the time. But what got me about Sharon was, I wanted to call her every negative name in the book. You gotta be stupid. You gotta be great. Who does that? Who go through this and then come back and there's no change? But then God was teaching me, so y'all missing what I'm trying to do along the way. We were trying to fix. I was trying to fix something that only God could fix.
So if you thought your family was broken and separated before, now you were really physically separated.
Oh, yeah, physically.
Right. So having to go through the thinking that you were going through the healing process of being away and coming home, now you're back home into a situation that has literally separated the family. And what did you do when you came out of prison after 18 months? What did you do?
After that traumatic thing happened,
yes, what did you do?
I started back on drugs.
You started back on drugs. And so at some point, you got tired. At some point, your mindset changed. When was that?
After we was separated, I think in 2010, that's when we moved. We all moved in our house. We moved in Pooler. Okay, and that's when I said, something has to change. But even though we were there, I think for a couple of years, I still was kind of iffy, dibble dabble. But in 2015, gotta put a date to it. That's when I said, I'm tired. I'm just tired.
Was there a day where something happened that switched the mindset? Or did you just wake up one day and say, you know what, I've had enough? Was there a particular moment in a day, or was there a particular day where it just switched? Did something happen to switch it?
Well, before then, I started going to a spiritual group or a recovery group. And I remember when I was going through that, Otis used to always tell me, you don't need no recovery group. You just need Jesus. You need Jesus.
Jesus heard a death.
And so I started going to this program, a spiritual program. And so I started hearing and people's stories. This is me. This is my story. I didn't know this was my problem. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I found out the difference between religion and spirituality. Because everything was at church, religion. And I found the God of my understanding in this spiritual recovery group.
Your own relationship.
My own relationship. Not my childhood God. Not my husband God.
Your God.
It was my God.
Tell about the fights that, not the literal fights, but the fights that we would have between the recovery place versus the church and what I was doing.
You told me that was one of your biggest battles.
We battled because where I was, I saw what my God was doing in my life and had done in terms of sustaining me, not walking out the whole 9 yards. I'm like, if my God can work with me and help me and change me from where I can, surely he could do the same thing for her. And he can. And he wanted to. But I had to take, God was like, when you see a child put their hands on something, you keep telling them finally, you have to tap them on the hand. God had to tap my hand and say, hey man, get out of the way. This is my business. I'm in the kitchen. Stay out of the kitchen. And so because I used to go to the recovery place with her, and
it was not a recovery place. It was just a recovery program.
Program. And so I would sit there, and God have mercy on my pharisaical thinking. I would sit there, man, all these people got problems. You know, I'm sitting here, you know, and what have you. And the person who had the biggest problem was me. And I'm sitting there, and I said, wait a minute. And then finally started registering. Man, these people transparent.
Being real.
And they were real. And there was a peace.
That's the only way to heal.
Exactly. And I'm like, wow, I get it. And all along, I was trying to hide and, you know, save face. I wanted people, you know, this Elder Parris, you know, elders and preachers don't have these kind of problems. Their families, you know, well knit, tight on. They don't have these kind of problems. And God was like, see, I'm trying to get you. I'm trying to help you heal. And so my healing came through her. Yeah.
And I remember specifically one Sabbath, and this is when I knew. This is when I knew that I had to hear this. This is when I knew that I had to ask you to be on the show. Because you got up and Otis, you said, you know, for a long time, my wife has wanted to tell her story. And I was in her way. Because I don't want church people to know, and you know, the neighbors are nosy, and you said all that, and you said, you know what, I'm removing myself, and you brought her up, and she started to tell a little bit of her story. And I had met Sharon before that day, and I didn't know that story. But there was something about her that I gravitated towards. And I was like, there's something special about her, but I didn't know what it was. And when you said that, as soon as it was over, I came and found you. I went straight to her because it's not your story to tell. It's not my story to tell. And sometimes, you know, we go through life and we go through so much, and God gives us trials. He gives us tribulations so that we can reach out to him, so that we can call on him, so that we can depend on him. But as humans, we tend to want to fix things ourselves. And so when someone's going through that, it's best for us to step out of the way, because they have to build their own relationship with God. They have to find him. They have to talk to him. They have to pray with him. And that's just what happened in your life. So tell me about Second Chance. Tell me about, is that the name of it? The program that you were going to?
No, it's just a spiritual program.
Yeah. She talking about the one
no.
Not that one?
Just how it helped me with the religion and the spirituality. Yeah. Like I said, it helped tremendously. And that's, you know, when I said enough was enough, you know, I was done. You know, I was done one day at a time. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to always be in recovery. You know what I'm saying? But I have to work a spiritual program. You know, and I always say I go to that spiritual program, right? But when I go to church, that just enhances my spirituality.
It's maintenance.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
maintenance. You know,
Yeah, but I'm glad you brought that when you're talking about second chances, which is another part of the story. There's so many parts to story.
I could sit here with you for days.
Yes. The second chance experience was, matter of fact, I was there every time.
Second chance was an inpatient long-term rehab. So
yes, and I remember I was excited when they say that it was around, I think it's around Thanksgiving, whatever they were releasing her. Okay, and so I'm thinking that she's gonna go home with me. I think it was it Thanksgiving, whatever. But when they released, no, way. It was Chatham County. I know our story. Okay. When they were releasing her, I was outside and I was excited, you know. I'm thinking she's going home with me. But the people from the program was there as well. And instead of she going home with me, she went with them. And
that was a blow.
Oh my goodness, wasn't it a blow?
You had my clothes packed.
Oh man, it was a blow. They took her. Because I asked her, I was trying to negotiate, but can she spend, Thanksgiving with us? And then, I bring up, so no, she got to go immediately to the program. And so she went to the program, and I was able to visit her on a regular basis, in house and whatever. And there are times when they would have programs, and she would come to Savannah, not far from Statesboro, then she'd come to Savannah, and then they'd be in church and they would introduce their program or what have you. So I would get time to spend with them. And I remember one time we were on Broughton Street at one of the theaters. They were there for entertainment because they normally, you know, they were late. It was a program for ladies. And so I remember, you know, I got a chance to go there and actually sit by her, and when the movie, whatever it is that they were watching,
was a gospel
concert. That's what it was. Excuse me. And once it was over with,
that was
okay, I had to go home. Boy, that was painful. I'm walking to my car, and the van that she was in was riding by, and she's in it going in another direction. Boy, that was painful. But I made the walk, you know, and boy, it's just so many.
I'm sure you have so many moving parts that we probably missed some, but that's okay.
We have.
So now that you've gone through all that, let's talk about. So you know, you did your 18 months. You came home. You know, committed another crime, and then here we are again, where you know you're going through recovery. So now let's talk about where we are now. Okay, let's talk about Angel Tree.
Angel Tree.
Yes, tell me a little bit about Angel Tree.
Okay, Angel Tree started in 8 years ago. It was one of our Pastor Dyson. I don't know if somebody told him about my past or what, but he came and asked me about doing prison ministry, and he mentioned about Angel Tree. Now, when I was in one of my little stints at Chatham County Jail, I heard about Angel Tree, and that it was like, you know, you signed up for gifts for your children. My kids were kind of big, but I think I signed, but nothing else, you know. So I was like, okay. So I just decided to, you know, to give it a try and do the Angel Tree and do prison ministry. We started, you know, with like 20 kids, and now we're like at 60, 70. And so I was telling you, like, it may be selfish, but, you know, it keeps my recovery in front of me. And, you know, I've been on both sides. Like I said, my son is now incarcerated, so we have custody of his LJ. And so now LJ is so, you know, so I just love prison ministry. And you also, there's an article here in the South Atlantic News where there's an article that she wrote. It's Member Leads Ministry from the Heart. And part of my introduction when I first introduced the show, the first paragraph actually is from the article in the South Atlantic News, and it tells us about her leading out in prison ministries and the Angel Tree. And so, you know, I'm sure that you're able, you know, your experience is able to bless others, not just with the story, but with your actions. And if anyone wants to contribute to Angel Tree or be a part of it, what do they need to do? They can, I think they have it on Adventist Giving through our church, where they can just donate. And give. And then when Christmas time comes, you know, I usually get the funds and just, you know, purchase things that I need for the children.
Could you go in a little bit more in depth in terms of how you have taken Angel Tree to another level? Because, you know, sometimes when we kind of just, you know, laying around and, you know, she get these brainy-eyed thoughts and ideas. And then I'm like, well, hey, implement it. And so could you just share, you know, with everyone in terms of, you know, you've taken Angel Tree. It's not just a one-day occasion. You go and use it to other things, you know, to prison and whatever you want. Just parties and stuff.
We, 1 year we did the back to school, you know, back to school where we, you know, supplies. It says it starts with a gift, but it's so much more. It's about a relationship. You know, also I'm trying to get the church involved with actually going inside the prison and just, you know, speaking to the guys and the girls that are incarcerated. So I want to, you know, get beyond the walls, you know, and just go out, because I know what it did for me when people came in and ministered, you know, so.
You know what, when she talks about going beyond the walls, and when she said that she was the time when she was incarcerated, and she was suicidal. She said this particular week she didn't go to hear the choir, the folk that were coming in. She didn't go, and she said that she wanted to ask a question to people that were coming. I think she needed to share that with you as well.
Well, while I was in prison, they would have different church come in and minister through, the word and song, which I want to get our church involved in. And I was noticing this church, and I kept saying, "Oh, they songs sound familiar. They look clean. There was no jewelry." I was saying, "There's something in my spirit." And the song that this lady was singing, I was like, "Oh my goodness." And so I didn't go that particular night. So I asked my roommate, I said, "When you go, can you just pull one of them aside and ask them what church they from? Because you're not supposed to say anything about any religion or anything, denomination rather." And so she came back and she said, "They said they're Seventh-day Adventists." And I said, "What? Seventh-day Adventists?" So the guy that led out with that ministry, him and I are friends today. He's a part of the prison ministry at West End Church in Atlanta, and wow, it's just
that's great.
Yeah,
that's great. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So tell me, Sharon, do you find that even today, as you try to get past all of this, do you find that your past gets thrown in your face?
Oh yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, applying for a job, it used to be where you can just fill out an application, and if you put like you're a felon or whatever, you can just like talk in the interview. But now everything is online, so if I put I'm a felon, if you haven't even seen me, you just
you're written off.
I'm just written off. But when I got home, I started looking, and then that rejection thing started all over again. I'm like, God. So I was like, it was just too much. So in the process of all of that, my son they had LJ. And
okay, but before that, when you were dealing with the rejection part, and you asked about how she felt and any backlash, whatever, there was a time I was home, and she called me and she was traumatized. And I'm like, what's wrong now? And in my mind, in my sick think, I'm like,
reverted back to,
right. I'm not one of those. Here we go again.
Oh no.
And she went to confessing to me something that she was just like, no, I didn't do it. And in my mind, okay, wait a minute, I didn't heard this before. Okay, and in my mind, 90% of my mind was like, she telling me that she's not telling me the truth. And then other 10% was like, she might be telling me the truth. Because I wanted to believe her, and then I was very apprehensive. Right, I was very apprehensive. So here it is, I'm in the house by myself. And so she was just trying to tell her story, and I really wasn't buying it. But when she came home, and she said, "Otis, the same. I can almost word for word. I'm telling you the truth. I didn't do it." And she told me of an experience, something that happened, and most of our pain came from in the church. Okay, and so she was accused of doing something she didn't do, and when she explained it to me, I believed her. And found out she was telling the truth, and that did so much for me, But people went off of her past. And she did, because like I say, God has a sense of humor, because the way it was said, the person who thought she had done something wrong, eventually God revealed to them that it didn't happen. They found what they were looking for, whatever the case may be. But it was like, wow. But when she kept talking about that rejection thing, and I said, let me tell you something. And at first, trigger. But with the job situation, it was twofold. One was selfish on my part, and the other part was, okay, I'm the head of this house. My responsibility is to take care of you. And the selfish part was, no, don't get a job, because we've seen when you get jobs, what happened. Okay, so that was the selfish part, but the other part was you don't have to get a job.
Selfish and could be protective as well.
Yes.
Removing her from.
But I still was selfish because I was still trying to, you know, help God in this whole process. Remember the mess I've made along the way. So here it is, we going along. And I said, no, don't worry about that. If I have to work 2 jobs or work whatever, you just stay home. You take care of the kids. You just make sure your spiritual well-being fine. So that was more of a comfort for me. But as we grew and as she got to the place where she didn't need a job or she didn't desire a job as much, and she would see me struggling, whatever, she said, I need to get a job. I said, no, you don't. She said, God got us. God got us. And so in our transition from one place to the next, our finances, our responsibility started to increase. You know, more money, working the same job. And every time we would have to move or something happened, God already then opened doors waiting for us to go through. She said, how are we going to take care of it? Saying we took care of the last, God took care of the last one. God going to take care of this one. And so as we processed, I said, now, if you want to work, and I was getting over myself. If you want to work, you can. That's your business. I said, but you don't have to. I said, but the way things look, you have a full-time job. You have a grandson. You can just make sure that he is taken care of, school, what have you. I take care of everything else. But that was a transition that we are now going through, you know. And I told her, I said, that's my responsibility, and I love it. You know, but LJ right now, he's top priority. You know, he's top priority.
And I feel like, you know, God got me sober
for LJ
to be able to you know, go through the process to have him. We got him when he was 3 months old. You know, so but my life changed in 2015. That's when I said, no more. I'm done. No one day at a time. But I'm blessed and happy that you were able to make it to 2015. Because given the things that you were doing, the possibility of you not even making it was there. Was there. But Otis, I really want to ask you is, throughout all this, did family and friends ever tell you to leave your wife?
The short answer is yes. Man, I was, you know, they were trying to be kind, but at the same time they were being hurtful. They put all her baggage that they knew in front of me and wanted me to make a decision. So in actuality, what they were telling me was, man, you crazy. I wouldn't put up with that. I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't do that, you know. And so I listened, but I didn't listen because, you know, God didn't call me to listen to them. God called me to listen to him. And so, and I mentioned when we were talking earlier that I used to have these dreams all the time about Jose and Goma.
You told me.
And I was like, man, why I'm having these dreams? Every time I look around, Jose and Goma, man, brother, got 2 kids, got a wife. I said, you know, what you trying to tell me? And every time that I would try to come up with an excuse to justify leaving her, that story just keep coming back. No, you go get her. You go get her. Wherever she, you go get her. You go get her. And I said, okay, all right. I'm not worried about what people say and how they feel. They can say what they want. They can call me what they want. But I'm going to get my girl. And so I went after her, wherever she was, whatever the case may have been, jail or prison or whatever, I was going to get my girl. And so that's the mindset that I have, even to this day. Even to this day, she's my girl. And she has been, you know, people see me in front of the church, and they talk about, oh, Elder Parris. No, this is my secret weapon. Like they say, this is my secret. This is my blessing right here.
You said she taught you how to love.
Oh, she taught me how to love.
You told me that she taught you how to love. How? Because it's been 40 years.
Yes.
Well, 45 you were together. 45 dated 5, married for 40. You were in love.
Yes.
You loved her.
I loved her.
All this time, she's just now teaching you how to love. Share that.
She's teaching me, and she taught me how to love like Jesus. to love like God. So when I encounter people today, I don't go after, you know, they got this, you know, they got a problem, you know, they doing this. I don't see that. What I see is God trying to show me and telling me, Otis, if you could work it out, you don't need me. I'm the glue here that holds this together, to put it together. And so I depend on God teaching me how to love her. He's still doing it to this day. I tell people, you know, I say, no, we're not no perfect couple. To this day, we still. Last night we went to a couple's get together last night on our way to the beach. What do you think my wife did, man? Hey, she was disagreeing with me. We were going down the road, you know, fussing, going back and forth. But we don't fuss like a lot of other people fuss. We fuss with the intent that, hey, we know tomorrow is God's will. We're gonna wake up. We're gonna be together. But there are those who fuss and, hey, I'm out. And so we communicate that way. So, and when we came back and we just have a wonderful time together. And I know how to read her language when she's talking and what she's doing, whatever. Okay. Okay.
All right. So as we prepare to close, there are just a couple more questions that I have. Sharon, tell me, I think about this when I think about you, and I was thinking about this interview, that what are your days like when you're by yourself? What are your thoughts like? Having gone through what you went through, what thoughts do you have when you're by yourself? Is it thoughts of guilt regarding whether or not he finished, or could have been a pastor, or the children, or what is that like for you, with you alone with your thoughts?
Yeah, some days I think about, you know, me not pursuing my nursing career, you know, and him having to carry the load. I also think about, you know, him not finishing theology, finishing school. And, but, you know, we're happy, you know, we're content. All the material things that used to matter, they don't matter anymore. I can wear the same purse, the same, you know, you know, as long as we're together. It don't, I don't even care, you know what I'm saying? Nah, I'm not gonna lie, my hair gotta be done, like, you know what I'm saying? My hair gotta be done, you know what I'm saying? But as far as the other stuff, you know, but other than that, you know, but I also know,
and you've experienced it all before. You've had it all,
and so when I have to play that tape back, you know, like, I do not want to go back down this road. So I got to keep I got to stay spiritually fit. You know, I got to have my personal time with God, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, for so long, we were so disconnected. So now we can have conversations about God. You know, I can put my little recovery in there, but it's still spiritual. It's still spiritual. And that's what he always wanted. You know, the days when he used to be like, you going to church? You know, now I want to go to church, you know, because I have a relationship with my God, you know what I'm saying? So it's sweet. And, you know, and with Lindsay being where he is, you know, I was crying earlier, but I get to pour into him. I get to encourage him. Like, you know, this too shall pass, you know, and you have to just go through what you have to go through, you know, for him to get what he needs to get. I got to let go and let God, you know what I'm saying? So,
So we're preparing to close. We could talk for days.
Yes, there's so much.
There's so much more, and so many missing parts in between. But I think the message has gotten out.
And if you allow me to say before we close, you know, this thing that I have gravitated to, this saying that I have, the most beautiful thing in my life today is when God makes no sense. That's the most beautiful thing in my life, is when God makes no sense. This makes no sense. But when God revealed his will and his way, and he show us, you know, at the end of the journey, it's worth it all, because it makes no sense what we've gone through, and we are still here. You know, so
40 years
to us
later.
it doesn't. That is so commendable. I have to say, 40 years, 40 years, and you're getting
plus 4 years plus 5.
Yeah, 45 together. But the marriage itself is 40 years, and you're getting ready to have another wedding. Getting ready to celebrate again and renew it all, and it's very much well deserved, and I'm really happy for you both. But just one thing I always ask my guests to do before we close the show. You know, one of the questions I always ask is, are you living your purpose? But I think we've already covered that. You are leading out in prison ministries, and you're doing Angel Tree, and you know, I think we've covered the purpose of it all. So what I'm going to do before we close is I'm going to ask you just to look into this camera and just to give a few words of encouragement to whether it's folks who are battling an addiction, or whether it's folks who are struggling to tell their story, or just some words of encouragement to anyone out there that might be blessed from this. So go ahead and just look into this camera and just give
I want to say that just own your truth. You're as sick as your secret, so just own your truth, you know, and don't be ashamed, you know, just talk to somebody, you know, ask God to give you the strength, you know, and you'll find out that you're not alone. If I would have read the article in a Southern Tiding, Lord, my life probably would be a little different, because I thought I was different, you know. So I just want to encourage you to just trust God. Just be free. Be free.
Be free. Be free. Be free. And God allows you to do that. And sharing your story allows us to do that. Otis, I'm going to ask you as we close just to give a few words of encouragement about endurance, because you endured it. You stuck through it with her. And so to anyone out there that's struggling to fight through it, just go ahead and look into this.
Well, I'd like to tell those who are listening that in order to endure, one must learn how to endure with purpose. When we learn how to endure with purpose, it's worth it all. I have this thing sitting on the table, and this is our marriage. It has holes in it, but because God can take this vase that has hole, and it can serve purpose. So our marriage, your life, can serve purpose. Don't let the devil intimidate you about the story that God has given you, because he will intimidate you and allow you to die with your secret. And your secret is your story that you need to tell everybody, that God can heal, he can help, and he can restore. And if he can do it for us, he can do it for you as well. Be blessed.
In preparation for the show, Sharon shared a text with me, and I told you that I was going to use it. And I'm just going to read it real quickly as we close. It says, share your truth. Never be afraid to share your truth. It may anger your family, friends, and even some enemies. But sharing your truth manifests inner healing, faith, and a newfound strength that you will understand. Sharing your truth will make you free. And Sharon shared that text with me prior to the taping, and I thought it was in conjunction to this talk. I just want to tell you that from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you both so very much for agreeing to share your truth. I'm praying, it's my prayer, that this was a blessing, and my prayer for you personally is that God will just continue to manifest in you. He will continue to use you. He'll continue to bless you. He'll continue to strengthen you. And I'm praying that you will continue to hold on to your God. That's my prayer for you.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you
Otis,
too.
thank you so much for being the supportive spouse, the man of God. I pray that he'll continue to just use you according to his will. And I pray that he will just continue to use you to bless your family and others as well. I love you both. Congratulations on 40 years of marriage.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And to your viewers, as always, thank you for supporting this platform. It is my prayer that this testimony this evening blessed your soul. It is none like we have done on this show, and I know that someone out there, someone somewhere was blessed. As always, if you wish to get in touch with us, feel free to reach out at realtalkwithmichelle1@gmail.com. Thank you for watching, and as always, let's have some real talk.